Okay, and we're live. So welcome to this Studio Jakarta EE Live. My name is Ivar Grimstad and I'm your host here tonight. And with me, I have Emily Jiang, which is, you're working as a Liberty Microservice Architect and Advocate at IBM. And welcome, Emily. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Eva, for inviting me. I work for IBM. I mainly work on the open source project, like a MicroProfile and Open Liberty. In MicroProfile, obviously, I have to involved a lot of specifications, especially in the config and fault tolerance. In IBM Open Liberty, I have an overall kind of responsibility for the Open Liberty implementation for MicroProfile. Yeah,
that's awesome. And Open Liberty, you have a beta out now. It's version 21 something.
Yeah, so we have actually it's in the 2010 beta, we started supporting like a MicroProfile for the own, and gradually we add more and more features along. As you know, Open Liberty is open source, so we are targeting. So it's no promise. This is kind of what I'm driving. So trying to get 2102 release to implement MicroProfile 4.0. So that's kind of the current plan. So it's you can try out like our daily build, nightly build, or beta for the new feature of the MicroProfile. So 4.0. Hopefully later on I can do a quick demo and show you how easily to get started.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking forward to that. And actually, this morning I downloaded the Open Liberty beta for Jakarta EE9, which is also a certification request there. So you're supporting both Jakarta EE9 and MicroProfile 4.0. Are you able to do that in the same runtime, or is it two different runtimes?
Yeah, the same runtime. So basically, it's kind of in for example, 21.002 beta. And basically, it has all the Jakarta EE9 and MicroProfile 4.0 features. So basically, it's all controlled by your configuration. If you say, okay, I want Jakarta EE9, you will get a Jakarta EE9. If you say you want MicroProfile 4.0, and then you will get MicroProfile 4.0. However, as you know, 4.0 is aligned with Jakarta EE8. You can't really use the Jakarta EE9 together with MicroProfile 4.0. So
yeah, that was my follow-up question was, what happens if I activate both the Jakarta EE9 and the MicroProfile 4 feature? Because then we will get the namespace problem.
Yeah, you will get the error. Your server won't start. You will get a nice error to tell you, sorry, this is not supported scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know if there are any plans for MicroProfile to support the Jakarta EE9 APIs in the future?
Yeah. So this is kind of to do with the program plan we are trying to put together for MicroProfile this year. So we have been talking kind of actively on the mailing list. So we're saying maybe it's in June's time, if we could, that would be nice to release MicroProfile 5.0 maybe to align with Jakarta EE9. So it's kind of also I proposed that maybe we could have two kind of the release stream. One is the 4.x is for the Jakarta EE8. The other one is 5.0 aligned with the Jakarta EE9. So basically, it's all the APIs should from MicroProfile should have the exactly same features. However, they kind of want to work with Jakarta EE8 to cater for the runtime that have not moved up to Jakarta EE9 as yet, and also the other stream MicroProfile 5.x will be aligned with the Jakarta EE9. So to cater for the runtime who have the greatest support for Jakarta EE9, so that people can choose which one they want to try out with. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a sensible approach, and but today we are talking about MicroProfile 4.0, and you were able to release that just before the end of the year.
Yeah, so it's like a MicroProfile 4.0. As you know, like a MicroProfile 3.3 like released in February 2020, and then we had to spend a lot of time to set up a working group. And then MicroProfile 4.0 has to be only can be released after the working group was set up. The working group was set up at the end of October, and then I cannot say we have spent so much time to talking about this working group, although it's very important for however for the end user, most important thing is we can produce a nice feature for them, right? That we need to hurry up to release the MicroProfile for as soon as possible. Actually, it's my personal goal as well. So I'm passionate about getting the MicroProfile 4.0 to be released in 2020. So I have been putting a lot of effort to collaborate with others, and eventually we got 4.0 released just before Christmas.
Yeah, it was super hectic there a couple of days.
Yeah. Basically, it's quite a few nights worked till really late, and it's quite a few people working together, and we pull all the effort together, and then basically we got it out eventually. So very pleased with it.
And another consequence of the working group is that now you can call it just MicroProfile. It's not a fixed MicroProfile anymore.
Correct. So I had to go through a few changes in various places, and to remove to change from Eclipse MicroProfile to MicroProfile. Yeah.
Lots of search and replace here and there.
Yeah. The other thing is previously it's kind of not standard, and now you could call it standard, right? So, yeah.
Because now you have the MicroProfile specification process to back it up to produce standards.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have any slides or any demos to show around this release? Or because this is, even though it's, this is one of the few MicroProfile releases where you actually have updates in all the specifications.
Yeah, this is and also this is a special release with all the major releases from 7 specifications, only with the exception of the JWT hasn't got breaking changes. All the other spec contain breaking changes, breaking changes. So it's a bigger release, it's a bigger feature. Is kind of a lot of nice features when he, Okay. Shall I share my screen? So I have a few slides, and we'll go from there. Can you see my screen?
It's recursive.
Yeah, I got.
So this is a good lesson for everybody who's learning programming and want to learn what recursion is.
Yeah, exactly.
The older screens.
Recursive.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
We put on the slide show mode.
Excellent.
Let me drag over. Okay, let me go through here. So I have a few slides I go through to talk about the MicroProfile 4.0, and then later on I can do a quick demo, right? So this is like a web page from the MicroProfile.io. So you can see here the MicroProfile 4.0. One thing I want to point out is all these building blocks. If you click on it, that will take you to the release page. You can see JavaDoc and also spec PDF. So this is kind of I worked quite closely with a design team in the MicroProfile. Ryan, from Ryan from Tommy Tribe. So eventually, I think this is good for end users. So from now on, if you go to here, and you can get all the spec or the JavaDoc for this particular release. And the other thing that we're also trying to improve this website. So it's the other idea I have is on this website we have a kind of link to the JavaDoc page. So you can whatever version you are using, click on that. You could go to see the JavaDoc.
Yeah, that's an excellent feature that you can click on the specs and get all the information. Because then the only thing you need to remember is this web page, and we have the URL here at the bottom of the page. It's microprofile.io. Go in there, and you can scroll down to the 4.0 release and click on the specs you're interested in and get all the information about it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of, I'm quite pleased with this. So this is kind of in the past, like at conference and etc., and people came to me saying all the information scattered around. It's like very difficult to find a central place and to view all the things. So here is the kind of first step. Yeah. If anyone have any good ideas, reach out to me via Twitter. My Twitter handle is Emily FH Jiang. So it's on my, yeah, you can see on my photo there. As I was mentioned earlier, like this is the first release under the MicroProfile working group. One thing I want to call it out is this working group not only consists of companies like IBM, Red Hat, Tommy Tribe, Jelastic. We also got Atlanta JAG. And also this year, like Garden State JAG, and also Oracle and Piara also joined. So this is this means more people will be around to work on the MicroProfile specifications. And also we have more structured procedures to release the specifications as well. Okay, let's zoom in to see the what's in the MicroProfile 4.0. As you can see here, the one in green. So this is all the Jakarta EE specifications. So this is the I put in the macro version. Basically, I trying to show this is the Jakarta EE8. Is still Java X namespace. It's not Java Jakarta namespace Java X, but Maven coordinator has been updated from Java from the Java X to the Jakarta. So it's the other thing is all this purple one. So they are MicroProfile specs. You can see this is all open tracing, health metrics, open API for tolerance, config, and REST client. They all contain backward incompatible changes, with the exception of the JWT. So it's a pretty big release for MicroProfile 4.0.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So in the next few slides, I'll quickly go through the some top features, to see what included, what functionality is being delivered in each MicroProfile specifications. So for the config, I spent a lot of time working on this, working on the MicroProfile config spec. This also MicroProfile config is is a centerpiece in MicroProfile. So it's all the other specs depend on this config spec. This also is in the past people trying to move from Spring config to MicroProfile config. So also they found out some gap in MicroProfile, such as the profile is one. the configure profile. So this is directly kind of raised by someone who has a Spring background and said, okay, in Spring I use this configure profile a lot, but this feature does not exist in MicroProfile. So this is a configure profile. Now is kind of similar to what a Spring configure profile. So basically, you specify these configurations in your configure sources, like with the naming convention is a percentage, and then the profile name and dot, and then the variable name. And then you can specify like np.config.profile. So it's, you say, okay, I'm the profile is testing. So in this case, the vehicle.name will be a bike. So because this is switched on, so this is profile. The other thing is if you say np.config.profile equals dev, the car will be the vehicle.name.
Can you choose any name there, or is it limited to dev and testing and what's the other one?
Live.
Yeah.
Good question. Yes, you can do any name you want. This kind of, if you do blah dot vehicle name, you will hear you say blah, and that one will be picked up. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So you can have your personal profile. I can have Ivar profile and test my properties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like completely up to you. So what kind of profile you want. Yeah. This is the one thing. The other thing is kind of the variable replacement. Oh, sorry. So the variable replacement, is previously, if you do a URL HTTP like a dollar bracket, and then you will, when you get a URL, you will get exactly like that. Now with the variable replacement, if you do a dollar bracket host, if a host is a property, and host is found is defined as localhost, so this will be replaced with the localhost, and similarly port will be a 9080. So eventually, when you do a URL, like inject the property name URL, you will get a localhost colon HTTP localhost colon 9080. So this is kind of variable replacement. So the third one is configure properties. Again, for this one, like both Spring and also Delta Spike configure support the configure properties. So configure properties basically is similar to entity beans per se. So basically is it's like you have your own entity bean, and all the field is all inject, basically the inject point. So here in this scenario, you define class, you define the variable here, like all these variable here. All these variables kind of injection point. You don't even need to say at inject. So implicitly, this all will be injected. So it's so here it taking the prefix. Basically, you can specify the prefix. If you say prefix server, so this one public string host. So this one will be inject with a value from server dot host. Similarly, this one will be server dot port. Yeah. So this is the configure properties.
Yeah, that's a nice feature. So you can kind of have a configuration like the details class here. It's kind of typed the configuration properties. That's nice.
Yeah, so basically, previously you scattered around all the injections. Like here in this class, you inject server.host. The other class, you inject server.endpoint. And now is you can aggregate them all. Like if they belong to if they belong together, and you aggregate all in single place, right? You can see, okay, you have these kind of things. You need to do the injection. It's quite nice, organize, nice way to organize all these property injections. the fourth one is there's a kind of the usability issue. Like the MicroProfile config, you can specify like a lot of config sources, like MicroProfile dash config or properties, environment variable, system property, and also Kubernetes config map, all from database. And then if the one property exists in multiple places, you do, after you have done the injection, you want to change the value, and then you say, oh, which config source supplied this value? So you need to find out like the winning config source, because all the config sources they have a priority order. We call it ordinal. All of them have an ordinal, so it's they are ranked. So you need to figure out which config source is the winning config source. In this case, you want to change the value, you go to that config source to update the value. Now is this one config value to trying to help you with that. So it's if you inject a config value, you can get hold of the which config source supply this property value.
Okay, yeah, that's a nice. We have a question in the chat, which is if config injection also works with private fields, and it's also been answered in the chat that I believe the answer is yes.
Yes, yeah, it does. Here I have the you can see here the private field, the right. Endpoint. Yeah, it's basically this is kind of same as the CDI injection. So it works on private field and also public. However, if you have private field, you will need to have a getter in order to get hold of the other class, be able to use that value, right? So that's why here I have to declare this one getter. Okay, let's move on. For fault tolerance, fault tolerance kind of pretty much I think is it have a feature rich. It has so many annotations, it have covered pretty much a lot of areas, like a bulkhead, circuit breaker, retry, timeout, synchronize, and etc. And in the previous release, and we didn't specify bulkhead is saying, okay, it's only allowed this thread concurrently access this endpoint. So it's a previous, we don't know. We didn't specify is this per class or per instance? Is kind of the different runtime have a different interpretation. So it's and then is kind of, if people want to be absolutely sure, they always kind of annotate with application scope. So make sure it's kind of only one instance. So this is kind of, they can make sure this kind of app is portable. So from fault tolerance 3.0, we clarified that. So the bulkhead scope and also circuit breaker scope is a per class, per method. Is regardless whether you have your class is kind of request scoped or application scoped. Is ignore the instances. So it's basically that class only allow this many thread concurrently access this method, or if it's this class, this is the method is if have 5 failures and your circuit breaker is open. So it's regardless whether it's per which instance is got this failure. The other one is kind of fault tolerance 3.0 utilize metrics tags. So it's fault tolerance also produce some metrics. Basically is tell you actually fault tolerance has done retry, fault tolerance had a timeout exception, or fault tolerance has bulkhead exception, etc. Give you all kind of the metrics and etc. and now the metrics has used like tags. So it's when you build the fault tolerance kind of the query in the Grafana, it's much easier and to craft your query. So that's a kind of quick run through fault tolerance.
As you said in the beginning, that config is probably the one that is getting most attention. That kind of reflected in the comments, because we have another question here regarding config, and that is it possible to pull config from Git?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Not yet. So I think it's in hopefully in the kind of the upcoming release. Hopefully, we will start to talk about these config sources. Maybe as we know, that all these config sources, you are able to do that yourself. However, out of box it is do not, because it's designed kind of in a very nicely pluggable fashion. You can plug in any config source. You can plug in the Git. So
you get from, by default, you get the config file that you showed. You get the system properties and the environment variables.
Yes.
And if you want to have it from somewhere else, you either have to have someone who have implemented a config source, or implement it yourself. And it's a simple API to implement.
Yes, exactly. Quite simple API to implement. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to health. Health 3.0 kind of it has breaking changes because it's removed the at health. Now it has at liveness and at readiness. Now it's at health. If you use the previous version of the health, you have to update that. Like you either use at liveness or at readiness. However, the health MicroProfile health is exposed 3 endpoints. One is the /health, basically is aggregation all the payload. The other one is the /health/live. So it's aggregate all the liveness, the health check procedure. The other one is the /health/ready. So it's aggregate all the kind of payload from at readiness implementation. The other thing is, it's as you know, it's a MicroProfile target for microservices. Basically, the microservice is per runtime, per like a microservice. So basically, it's that. However, it's not everyone moved to microservice. This is still, I think now we are talking. Maybe microservice is not going to be the dominant the technology. Maybe I think it's a monolith. It still have every reason to say like a modular monolith and etc. It's still is useful, and I think in the future there will be a modular monolith and then microservices. So it's I know it's kind of recently people talking about they moved to microservice and then went back to monolith, and then. I found is one thing is I read one article is one company basically when they did the development they create microservices. Eventually when they deploy they merge the microservice into monoliths and deploy because it's all this going to be deployed together. So with that, so some spec on MicroProfile will have some kind of some areas think, okay, if you same runtime, you have multiple apps, what the behavior it will be. So in this second bullet point is means if you have one runtime, however, you have a multiple like microservices deployed, and then however, you only have one you have like status, like a readiness status or liveness status, and how can you configure this is kind of readiness status to up or down? So basically here is clarified. If you have multiple app deployed for this particular runtime, is all the application have started, and then before it started, it need to be done. The readiness need to be done. So this is kind of clarification. So the other smaller change is the method change. Previously is the state, now it's become a status. There's a reason for that is because in the first release of MicroProfile Health is in the payload we use a state. However, as you know, in some other in Spring and also in Node.js and etc., they adopt the status. So basically, we're trying to unite the payload so that can be consumed by different languages and etc. So we changed it from state to status on the payload, but kind of the in the API we only changed the method from state to status in the Health 3.0 because it's a breaking change. We can't really change that too often. We try to kind of minimize, consolidate the breaking changes in a particular major release.
Yeah, and we have another config question.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the question is if you intend to implement write support for config values.
Oh yeah, change the update config value. We have discussed this in the past, update config value. We decided not to to have this kind of the mutable state. We want to make them immutable in the kind of the API per se. However, there's two things, right? One thing is kind of whether you publish an API, you can change the underlying value in the kind of config source. That's not an area we would like to focus. We would like to. I think there's a lot of problem associated with that. We talked about for quite a few weeks for that, and eventually we didn't do it. So because it's quite difficult to sync up, and will be a lot of problems.
Yeah,
however,
because if you it's a kind of a slippery slope if you start having the applications update the configuration values, especially if the configurations are read by many other services.
Yeah.
Then you can get some weird state in your system.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the very important reason. This is one thing. The other thing is we support dynamic lookup. Basically, if you change the value in the config source, and then you can get a value kind of updated. However, CDI is quite static. If you do an at inject at config property, you will get when you look up whatever you change, you won't get that change. However,
then it depends on the scope of your CDI being. If it's
that's
an
true.
application scope, then they won't change. If it's request scope, that will change every request potentially.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. However, even if it's an application scope, if you inject the proxy, if you say provider this type, you will get that change when you use it next time. Yeah.
So that's a good tip if you want dynamic values in other than request scoped. Then you should use the provider and not the property directly.
Yeah, exactly. The programmer API. If you got config provided or get config and then config or get value, you will always get up-to-date value because it's always trying to look up the updated value. Yeah. Okay. Are there any more questions for config?
Not for config. There is another question, but I think we'll wait for that until the end of the slides, and then we'll take that question.
Okay. Let me see. So for metrics, kind of, I'm not going to say too much about that. So this is kind of metrics 3.0 added more kind of metrics. Is basically the simple timer. The simple timer was added in the 2.0. I think it's 2.1 maybe. The basically is kind of the is quite good for end user, and now it has report the highest and lowest record time, and etc. And also you can now you can also find out and map the exceptions as well for REST endpoint. For Open Tracing, Open Tracing 2.0 released in MicroProfile 4.0 is basically the itself in the MicroProfile Open Tracing itself. It didn't add anything. The only thing that changed is the consumed Open Tracing, change the Open Tracing API from 0.31 to 0.3.3. Basically, the API has breaking changes in the Open Tracing, so that's why it's kind of it has a major version increase. So it's become Open Tracing 2.0. As you know, it can work with Jaeger or Zipkin. The interesting thing is with Open Tracing, because Open Tracing and Open Sensors be merged to the Open Telemetry in the CNCF. So our next kind of the focus area will be consume Open Telemetry. So basically, it's because no more development happening in the Open Tracing area. So MicroProfile Open Tracing has to align with Open Telemetry. Yeah. So the other thing is the MicroProfile Open API 2.0. So this is kind of the align with the Open API. So it's the new version of Open API, the specification, and also it has three new annotations and a few interface, a couple interface has been removed. It's yeah. But from a functionality point of view, it stays the same. So there's a lot of features being added to the REST client. So the first one is it kind of support more variation of these kind of query prompts as the kind of arrays and kind of a group of them. So you could have the 4 equals 4 1, or is a comma separated, or uses the array style. So the first one is the default, and then it's kind of always provided these two is for different language, and maybe they will consume it differently. The next one is kind of we support the REST client support HTTP proxy. So it basically is I mean, in the past, it's a kind of, proxy is kind of, you always have proxy in the front, and then you talk to the endpoint. It's still quite popular. So it's kind of now it's the REST clients in the support the proxy. So you can specify your proxy so that your REST client will talk to proxy, and then proxy and then talk to endpoint. The other thing is the kind of auto direct. So it's this is kind of, you say, okay, you go to a server one. Actually, server one actually is sending you redirected server 2, and then in the REST client you can say, okay, support allow redirect, and then eventually the client will directly talk to the redirected server. So you will get the response back. The bigger one is the server sender event. So basically, is in the Jakarta S2.1, it has the server sender event. However, in the MicroProfile REST client, we didn't have the server sender event support until REST client 2.0. Now, in the REST client, you can do a server sender event as well. So that's pretty cool. This one is the family is MicroProfile GWT 1.2. As you know, like MicroProfile GWT is a very nice structure. Basically, it's utilize the GWT and then add two more claims. One is UPN and then groups. It in the previously in the GWT 1 and 1.0, 1.1, it didn't say whether they are mandatory or not. So in the 1.2 is kind of clarified that the groups is optional and UPN is mandatory. And also in the previous version, the GWT MicroProfile GWT only support signed GWT. So it's and in this version, GWT it also supports encrypted GWT. So it's kind of that. This is a signed GWT. This is GWS, and then is the other thing is kind of as you know, like for this MicroProfile GWT is how it works. Basically, is it push the MicroProfile GWT like this token as a header, HTTP header is on the request. Previously, this header is kind of has to be a authorization header, so it's specified as authorization. Now is in the 1.2 is this GWT token can be specified as a cookie as well. So you can specify the cookie, and also is as I said earlier. So it's encrypted GWT is also called GWE, and once it's encrypted, you need to have like a public key, a private key to like encrypt this GWT, and actually is GWT is quite a common like name. Actually, is when you talk about GWT, you mean the GWS. So it's basically signed GWT. So it's encrypted GWT, the GWE. So that means encrypted GWS. So you need to have like a private key to encrypt it, and on the receiving side, you need to have a public key to decrypt it. This is a GWS, signed GWT. So in this case, you need to have some configuration to figure out where is your private key, where is your public key, and etc. So that's a kind of a quick run through the MicroProfile 4.0. Yeah, so if you want to try, as I mentioned earlier, you can use the Liberty nightly build or beta, try it out. And also is as you may know, if you want to get started with the MicroProfile, we have a starter. Like you go to start.microprofile.io, or you can use the VS Code extension or IntelliJ extension. At the moment, it supports 3.3, and we'll work on the 4.0 once we have a runtime available for you to play with. And also, we are trying to add Gradle support. At the moment, you can create a Maven version. You can't create a Gradle project. Now we are working on that as well. So this is a quick say about MicroProfile future. So it's we mentioned earlier. So we're trying to work on the 5.0 aligned with the Jakarta E9. Hopefully we can do that in June. And also we're trying to adopt a macrometer as well. So it's maybe we refresh the MicroProfile metrics to support a macrometer, because a lot of Spring developers use macrometer. Is quite popular nowadays. And also I mentioned earlier the open telemetry. The other focus is we trying to work with Jakarta EE under the CN4J Alliance to see how can we collaborate well and set up a good ecosystem between MicroProfile and Jakarta EE. So this is finished with call for actions. Basically, we are trying to work out a program plan for MicroProfile. So click on this link to comment, add any comments you have, voice or your opinions where we should go. And also this is a conversation about MicroProfile Jakarta year alignment. So there's a few options. So please add your comments. So this is a few links. I think that's kind of pretty much for these slides. I don't know whether we have time for a quick demo.
We always time for a demo.
Okay, cool. Time goes fast. Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. So I have in order to save time, I have the app running to the on Liberty. So this is downloaded the daily nightly build, the very recent one. So I use kind of the Liberty Maven plugin. I can start with the dev mode. I started with dev mode, so can pick up changes straight away. And then is one thing to kind of to call it out. This is I use MicroProfile 4.0. However, we made a mistake in the POM file in the MicroProfile 4.0. So if you use MicroProfile 4.0 POM, it doesn't give you any APIs because we made a mistake because it's all thing provided. So the MicroProfile 4.0 POM is faulty. So always use 4.0.1. So I added some kind of statement on the release note on the MicroProfile 4.0. So make sure you use this dependency. So it's I use that, and also in the in my server.xml, this is running on OpenLiberty. So I have a MicroProfile 4.0. So I have trying to demo a bit about config. So it's as you can see here, I specify my config here. This is kind of the variable replacement, the host name and port. So this one is about the profile. As you can see here, I specify the profile is prod. So you will try to work out if I try to inject a customer name, and I should get Adam, right? So it's the other thing is that I define the config.name, age, and nationality. I try to showcase the config properties. So it's here. Here is kind of I try to say the config properties is this field should all injected customer.name, customer.age, customer.nationality, and then so I show you here. So it's I inject a URL here. So it's this URL should be kind of the have a variable replacement. So here is the config name is should say Adam, and then is in the config 20 endpoint. Let me go to the URL here. So I have things prepared. So this is the config value, and then if I do execute,
I know you're using the OpenAPI generated.
Oh, yes. So
and,
this
and
is
OpenLiberty comes with the Swagger UI.
Yes,
as well.
exactly. Yeah. So it's I no longer need to work out where's my endpoint. I can directly say because it's I know it's 1980. I just do OpenAPI UI. Everything is okay. That's all the endpoint available to me. And here I can say try it out. Execute. So you can see localhost hello customer name Adam. So if I change that, if I change the value, if I change no prod anymore, I want to be a test. I save that. So that this is a change should be picked up straight away. So we can say here test, it should be Alice. Let's go back here to see. See, it's Alice, right? So it's basically I don't need the beauty is I don't need to put the config this property in this file. This could be as my environment variable system property. So I can this deployed, and then I can just switch the profile, and I get a different behavior, a different result. So that is the variable.
And that is sort of the important aspect of using configuration and using these profiles, is that you have this externalized configuration microservice pattern that says that you can configure your application without rebuilding it.
Yeah, exactly. As a 12-factor up. And then you can see this variable replacement. The other one is I show you here is the other thing is the other endpoint. So it's so this is the configure property. I register the customer. Basically, I specify the customer here as the configure properties prefix the customer, and then I directly inject the customer using configure properties, and then I just display what's in the customer. So that's in the configure properties. So let's go in there. So in this endpoint, you can say try it out, execute. So you can see is all the you get details. Is max is 34 and from UK. So that's specified in the configure source. Maybe I use a couple minutes to quickly demo a couple of features in the REST client, or do
sure,
you have?
Go ahead.
I didn't know. I didn't think is we had it's nearly top of the hour. Okay. So the other thing is the query prompt style. So basically, is the mentioned earlier. You can see the multi pairs or the comma separated, or the array pairs. You can specify in the REST client. It just say query prompt style, and then you just supply the ABC as a set or as an array, and on the wire you will get a different representation. So this is on the endpoint query prompt style. Let me go down. So this is endpoint. So if I try it out, execute, so you can see multi pairs on the Y like that, or comma separated, or the array pairs. So that's that. So the other thing is try to show. Okay. The other feature is a redirect. So basically, it's if it's the I hit an endpoint, and then it's that endpoint redirected to a different site. So it's in this example, at first this one didn't come up with the redirect. So that would be just a display. Actually, you got 307, and then if you just saying follow redirect, you will get 200. So let me quickly show that. So this is this endpoint. So if I try that out, redirect. So you can see the first one. So this is you get 307, and this is the header is, and the new location is this one. and the second one you go to 200, you get correct response. So this is this is redirect. The final one, the final little demo is a service and event. So for service and event, basically is kind of the in the client. So all you need to do is kind of the return type is the publisher. So it's reactive stream publisher. And then it's kind of, this is the server side. So this can publish event. And in your kind of the client, you can make a subscribe to that a publisher. So in your subscriber, obviously, this is a reactive stream subscriber, and then it's kind of you can do the unsubscribe on next, what to do on next, and then on error. So in order to replicate, demonstrate this, I also have a TCP tunnel set up. Basically, is you can see what goes through the kind of the over the wire. So it's if I directly call me in here. If I directly call this endpoint demo SSE, and it's a 9080, actually it's go to 9070. TCP tunnel will directly send to the backend 9080. And in this one, it means publish 25, and then I client cancel this one after 30 message being received. If I do that, if you go to the TCP tunnel, you can see it's the kind of is the server sending all the event, like a 25 event. So the client get all of them. However, if you say your client is saying, actually, I want to cancel it after two event has been received, although the backend sending a 25, actually, I only want 10, so you will only get 10 because you cancel the subscription after 10 being received. In the tunnel, actually, you can see is actually is also is the 11 being received. Basically the delay between the publishing and canceling, but this will make sure you only receive the 10. So with that, that's a conclusion for this chat. That's kind of I managed to managed to talk about all the things I want to talk.
Yeah, I think you did a great job, and it was a super introduction to MicroProfile and all the features of 4.0. We have two questions here, which are, I don't think they're very related to MicroProfile. It's more related to WebSphere, I think. But right. One question is, what's the alternative of UDDI when it's moving from WAS?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the UDDI is not that widely used, and eventually is you can follow up with me via Twitter, so I can talk to you more about the UDDI. Yeah. That's kind of probably the most 15 years ago is been kind of decided.
Yeah, I remember we worked with it in 2000, so it has
it's registry
20-year-old, yeah, but it's still in use and still a good stuff. So, and yeah. The other question is, are there any plans to integrate MicroProfile with IBM TA? I'm not sure what TA is short for, but
what's I'm not sure the TA stand for either. Can you clarify what's TA?
Yeah. So just contact Emily on Twitter, and she will help you out.
Yeah, we do. Okay. Great.
That was an excellent demo and presentation, Emily, and I'm super happy that you were able to come here and have this hour with me. We had planned for 30 minutes, but now we've
I
gone for
only
an hour, and but I've enjoyed every minute of it. So thank you
yeah.
very much.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and thank you for all listeners. And if you're looking at it afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us, to me, or to Emily with any questions or any comments or anything. And with that, I think we end this hour here, and we'll be back later.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Bye.